You know, I need to stop telling myself that I'm gonna stop playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I never ever follow through. Uh, my buddy Ian has convinced me to play side events this weekend at the Remote Duel Extravaganza for May, and I did pretty good. I got blown out in the structure deck thing because let's be real here, the Ice Spirit structure deck sucks cock and balls. But I got first place with Rainbow Neos Eldlich Invoked in the Winamat, and I now own a uh, Egyptian God Slime mat, which is cool. you know, it's sentences like that make me question how good I am at this game because, like, I don't know, dude. Like, mm. Anyway, yeah, deck profile. I got first place with this, and so my matchups were actually pretty good. Round one, I went against Dinos, who bricked really bad, which was kind of nice. Game one, and then game two, he opened pretty much the full board, but I opened enough to break through it, and then some Rainbow Neos to fill up the last bit of damage per game. Round two, what did I play against round two? I'm pretty sure I play against Dragon Link, which is this deck's best matchup because this deck doesn't give a fuck about your negates. I can usually deal with them before the main phase. If not, I can deal with them during the battle phase. Um, and then round three, I went against my Dragon Link matchup again, where I won that match 2-1 because game one I opened nothing but traps and then just proceeded to get blown out by Dragon Link. Anyway, let's get into the profile. 3 Alistair, standard. I'm not going to explain it. 3 Magician Souls in the Fleur de Lis. Okay, so the question I get the most about this deck is, all right, Magician Souls is like $90. It is stupid hard to get a hold of, and they're not getting reprinted anytime soon because they'd rather reprint Hidden Arsenal cards for some reason. Uh, what can I do to replace this? And I tell them, cry, because there's realistically not really any replacement for Magician Souls. I mean, there's a reason why this card alone made Spiral a thing for like 3 months, because even with all its hits, Magician Soul is able to basically pick your hand and also get a body on the board while setting up your graveyard is really, really amazing. Even the Garnet in this deck isn't really a Garnet, because if you draw into any normal summon plus this, you can still make Verte, which means you're making Rainbow Neos, which is extremely, extremely good. This also allows you to pitch your traps in your hand to basically pick what cards you have in the end phase. If you open like double Hakero or Hakero Sanguine or like Conquistador Sanguine, you can pitch two, draw two, and then you get to figure out which traps you want depending on your matchup, and you can just set them up as long as well with the potential for a Neo spin if you are going second, or if you're going first, you have Makaba plus both back row that you want. Like, it's unparalleled. If I was to give any suggestion at all, I would say probably the Tenyi cards, or like maybe more ways to get to Lord, because Lord plus Alistair gets you the combo, but I don't know, man. It's so singular in what it does, and so, so good. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any real cards that can make it work. For the rest of the monsters, 2 Golden Lord, it's standard. You don't need 3. And you only want to open this unless you have Alistair. So yeah. 3 Ash, it's the most standard hand trap, and 3 Nibiru. Nibiru in the main deck was picked. Originally, I was playing Imperms in the main. Yeah, I was playing Imperm because I wanted more for interacting with Dragon Link, but also cards that would be able to pitch off a soul so I can get more deeper into my deck for Alistair. But at the end of the day, I decided to go with Nibiru, not only because it's a board wipe on your opponent's turn that doesn't destroy your target, but it is also a body on your field during your turn, because you're always blinding second with this deck. If you open this with your hand, your opponent, if they play into it, will basically give you half of your win condition, because if you can get to Verte, you're basically solid. It's so, so nice to have. Yeah, Nibiru is really solid. These are only 6 hand traps I play, though, because there's a lot. You're blinding second, yes, but you're not really relying on hand traps to deal with your opponent's board. You'd rather have cards that just physically, when their opponent's board is there, that deal with the cards. Then you don't want to prevent the board. You'd rather break the board. At least with this list. And then the Garnets for Neos Fusion. I cut the Rainbow Dragon for this one because this one, in theory, is summonable, which means it's automatically better than Rainbow Dragon. But this thing is also a dark, and with Artemis now being a thing, you don't really need to have another light monster in your graveyard. I mean, you're dumping one off in Neos Fusion anyway, so you might as well get a dark in the grave just as some variety. Plus, it does come up sometimes. I mean, I've never had it resolved, but it in theory could come up, so that just makes it better in my opinion. For the spells, 3 Neos Fusion. I feel like I need to explain this card again because a lot of folks genuinely don't know how this works. Basically, it's a Shaddoll fusion at any time that requires no interaction from your opponent. You can activate this, dumping your 2 Garnets to summon Neos, Rainbow Neos, and it also acts as a Banelinks in the graveyard. So it's also dumpable off of Verte Anaconda, which means that it's accessible with any 2 monsters in your deck. But the most important part about this card is that it does not have the you cannot normal summon or special summon for the rest of the turn or for the turn you activate this card clause. It's basically has the quote unquote potted duality clause where you can't spell summon for the rest of the turn. The rest of the turn. That's important because that means you can do things like normal Alistair, make Macabre to make this safer, then just drop this as like your last card and then just make Neos. It's a 45 beater that spins all your opponent's cards, and if Neos Fusion is used to make it, you have a Banelinks in the graveyard to protect it once, which is insanely good. That's why you'll see me main deck 3 of this versus 3 Neos Fusion or Red Eyes Fusion. Yes, Dragoon is probably a better card, but in terms of going second and just straight breaking your opponent's board, this is better because you can always. This is almost always live. Verte can do the same thing with it, and that it does with Red Eyes Fusion. And Neos is also bigger and deals with Dragoon on its own. If you can bait the Dragoon negate, assuming of course they don't have anything else, you can drop Neos Fusion and either spin the Dragoon by having any monster on the field, or you can just swing into it, and they can't deal with it because it's going to be too big. And if they negate the Neos, you have the fusion in graveyard. So not only do they not get bigger, but it's still it's still able to just run it over. So this card just straight up deals with Dragoon, so it makes that matchup a lot easier. Which in the past was really problematic because Dragoon was very difficult to deal with going second. You had to open exactly Lord plus 2 spells and traps because if you're and of course they have to have no other interruptions. If they have a call by the grave, you straight up just lose. But yeah, this helps with that one card, or helps deal with that one situation. Plus, it's really, really amazing against Dragon Link. Plus, with Meltdown, it's so good. Like, I don't know, like, I understand why Dragoon is better. And in theory, if this deck, like, let's be real here, the going first variant with, like, turn 1 Alistair Dragoon with back row, that's your optimal play, like Ian's playing. But when you're just trying to break boards, Neos is just, in my opinion, better. 3 copies of Magical Meltdown, and the Terraforming, like, it's also standard, gets you to Alistair. 2 Invocation, you don't need to play 3 because you always draw it anyway, Smile. 3 copies of Cursed Outland, this gets you to your Lord, and if you have Lord, or this plus Meltdown, you've just opened Insane. If you have Magician Souls, well then you're just an amazing gamer. And then 3 copies of Super Poly. This is probably the second best card in the deck because this deals with the Dragon Link matchup just on its own. It deals with both the Hot Red and the Borload Savage, and if they have Heretic Seal, you can just make the what's his face. And if you have Alistair, you can just deal with both. It's super, super nice. I love this thing. Plus, it puts a body on the board for Neos Fusion or for Rainbow Neos, so it's really, really good. That is it for the spells. Onto the traps. 3 copies of Sanguine. I did not play White Destiny because I needed to make room, and the White Destiny plus 1 Hawk Arrow were the first cards I cut because, yeah, having another Hawk Arrow would be nice, and the White Destiny being available if your opponent has the, or if you read that your opponent has the Ash Blossom, or just having another target for Hawk Arrow to, or Conquistador's set is also really nice. And 3 Conch because it's the better of the traps. You don't run Guardian because Guardian is still trash. Extra deck. Rainbow Neos. Now listen, I didn't just make this video to validate myself purchasing a First Ed Ghost Light Play Rainbow Neos, which I should not have bought, but I have it now. I'm going to play it. This thing is gorgeous. I don't know if I'll ever play it in real life events because I'm not trying to have this thing get stolen like I did at Portland, but yeah, it's great. It's the main focus of the archetype. It's really big. It does stuff with the graveyard. It's really good against almost any matchup. I don't know what else to say. For the Invoked monsters, 2 Macabre. Shout out to Ian for helping me get the last Seeker one I needed because I had to move 1 to get something else spicy. It may or may not have been Dragon Rulers. 2 Macabre, it's the one you make turn 1 almost every game. It's the one you'll make in a grind game. It's super duper good. It's the best one, of course. Caliga, I don't know, man. I keep finding myself not wanting to even play this because, especially in the Rainbow Neos variant, you'll never, ever, ever make this turn 1 because, this is really good with Dragoon, right? Because you can Verte, you can make this, summon Verte, and then Verte summon Dragoon, but then you're open to Nibiru, and it's just a whole nother can of worms. Plus, you can deal with, like it's in theory it's amazing. Like if in the right matchup, like against say Drytron, it's broken because it's so good. Like your opponent can only activate one monster effect per turn. That's obviously insane, but it's tiny and you have to back it up with something. And most of the time, it's an Alistair, which means if your opponent summons anything that's bigger than 28, they can just deal with it. The only other way you can protect this thing is with like Conquistador and Sanguine, but those are fairly difficult to get set up, especially if you don't have access to souls. So yeah, like this is the most cuttable card, but it does genuinely come up sometimes where you just want another monster on the field. It makes its job on occasion. But if there was any card in the extra deck I would cut, it'd probably be this. Raijin, I make this to deal. This is what you usually do to deal with the barrier statue. Like if you have Alistair plus the Super Poly, you can just make this, and then you deals with the thing. You don't really need to give a shit about it, but yeah, it sucks to have to run this. But and plus Droll sometimes a thing. So, Purg, yeah, Purg is Purg. It's a big dick dino that doesn't book everything, but gets really big sometimes. And you do occasionally have like those weird situations where your opponent doesn't put up any real negation, so you just make Purgatrio and just swing over everything and it's just game on the spot. So it's still gonna stay. Uh, Elysium, I don't give a fuck what you call this. It's called Elysium because I don't want to call it by its real name. Plus, everyone gets its real name wrong anyway. It's Eogdes, not Eogdes. Anyway, you make this late game. Plus, like I've gone in the past, I've gone into why this is so good. It's a card that deals with something on the turn it's summoned. Plus, it's a body. Plus, it's almost always live. It's something that does something on your opponent's turn. Plus, it's an endgame boss monster if you need it to. Like, it's so nice to banish like Rainbow. Plus, it does come up where you banish Rainbow Neos off this thing, and it's just 6,500 for 2 turns. And that's just funny to me. Super Poly targets Mud Dragon and the Starving Venom. This is going to be largely better when we get to the Drytron matchup after Lightning Overdrive. But this does come up when you just need to get a monster off the field, and usually those monsters are dark, so you can just summon Alistair or something. Or if you have Verte, you can dump Super Poly and then make either of these. And then Starving Venom is the one you'll probably make the most against Dragon Link because their boards are usually 2 dark monsters plus Herratic Seal or a back row. And you can deal with the Herratic Seal and a back row. It's just the 2 monsters that are problematic. Link monsters, BLS. It's another boss monster that you occasionally make. You usually make this with Golden Lord, but it feels really minus to use any of your fusions other than the Raijin to make it because, like, they're all not super expendable except for like maybe these 2, but they don't give them its effect, so it doesn't matter. Almirage and Artemis. I play both because I want to have immediate access to Purgatrio and the Makaba on turn 1 or turn 2, respectively. Like, and plus the second normal summon does come up. This also makes it so that any of your normal summons are live. So like if you summon Magician Souls and then normal Ash, you can then make Verte by turning it, or excuse me, you can make my brain dead. What did I forget? Whatever, we'll just assume I'm brain dead. And then Link Spider to turn your traps into vanilla into effect monsters. You can make Verte with them. Barricade Borg and Verte. Borg is the one you'll usually make after Verte. You don't really want to make this if your ability to make Verte is not hindered. But it does come up where you want to grind and you want to get something out of your hand. And if you open really, really good, you can put both these on the board turn 1, and then you can tribute, or not turn 1, turn 2, and then blow up the Borg, still get a recur in the end phase. And yeah, that is it for the extra deck. I'll go over the side deck. I wasn't planning on it, but I can go over the side deck. This is the one part of the deck I think needs the most tweaking. We'll get to those cards in particular, but Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. This was the best card in my side deck all week. It allowed me to get to Neos Fusion. It got me to Super Poly. It's a dark on its own, and it's a dragon, which means it's always going to make a target for Super Poly live. It's super duper nice. It straight up wins the bird up matchup because if they go into some more, you can drop this, and it'll draw you a whole bunch of cards, and then they can't deal with it with the Ancient Warriors because they can just negate the Ancient Warriors and then just swings over the barrier statue. So it's really, really good. It gives you those unsearchable one-ofs, those unsearchable blowout cards like Neos Fusion, Super Poly. It's super duper good. And it also gets you Dark Ruler, which is sick. Triple Lancia, this helps you with Dino. Your hardest matchup is probably like any of the back row decks. So something like Tikaboo does genuinely come in, but this is probably the most cuttable card in the whole deck. Let's be real here. It's, I don't know, like, I wanted to have a Floodgate type card that I could play through while also being able to stop Dragon Link. So it's something you can side into going first. I don't really know what you would side out, because even going second or going first, Super Poly is just so good. Like I don't know, this is probably the card I'd cut the most. Like I don't know what I'd cut for it at this moment. Probably more hand traps of some sort, or maybe some other like some other floodgate like rivalry or something. I don't know, but this would be something I'd cut. Yeah, this is the most cuttable card. Duster, two Cosmics, back row removal. You don't really care about back row, but occasionally you find that one monkey player that has Mystic Mind plus Prohibition. They call Conquistador, and you can't out Mystic Mind, so just having these is nice. And then three Dark Ruler. You can draw it off Phantasme, and if you draw it plus Neos or Rainbow Neos, you're just guaranteed to clear their board. It's super good. I don't see any reason not to play this in the side deck, especially these days. Yeah, that was basically it. The deck is really, really fun. If you've been playing any sort of like mainstream deck and you just want something different to play, I would genuinely think about playing this deck just because it's so different than any other variant of deck you'll see in the format. Like the only close comparison is like maybe Zodiac because Zeus Go Burr is really funny, but like it's not funny if it's not Ghost Reverse Smile. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to chat about this deck, I'll be in the comment section for quite a while. I've been even since posting that video about my OCG Thunder deck, I'm still checking comments. So if you guys want to chat about the deck or have any questions, 100% hit me up there. I would love to talk about the deck with you guys. I think that's probably the best part about the channel is that I could do deck theory and other stuff like that. Like for example, I would have never thought about the Fleur de Lis thing with as a target for Magician Souls, but if someone didn't, but someone recommended it to me, and I thought I'd try it, and I ended up playing it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one.